My name is Kiyan Allaei, and I am an application developer at DB Services. And today we'll be demonstrating a way that we have simplified selectors within FileMaker. So the problem that we are solving in the solution is that creator selectors often create a multi-layered onion. What I mean by this is if you're in a basic CRM system with a company location contact and a user goes in to create a new contact, they have to choose a company. And oftentimes that company is not in the system. So they'll go and create the company. Then once that's done, they'll go and select the location. Obviously the location isn't in the system because the company wasn't. And then they'll have to create the location, come back, and then finally they can finish with their contact. And it just creates a very complex and slow way to enter in data. So the solution we came up with was an easy-to-use drop-down that will select child records and tie it to the parent. And adding a new child record is done in a compacted data entry screen. So it really simplifies it for the user and makes it a lot more fluid. And then the record that ends up getting created inherits whatever data is needed from the parent record. So I will demonstrate this feature to you. So this feature is what we call Quick Pick. You can view it in FM Quickstart, which is our free starter solution. You can download it off our website at dbservices.com. Just go to articles and then select FM Quickstart. So this is a basic CRM. We have company, location, contacts, quotes, and invoices. So let's say that we're a user and we just received a call from a new contact. So we would go in, we would hit new, we would type in the name, and let's say we go to select the company. And let's say we're in a parallel universe and I work for Salesforce. It's not there. Instead of having to go through multiple layers of selectors and creators and all that, all the user has to do is hit add company, type in the name, enter it as a prospect, and then enter in any just quick data that you'd like. Obviously, you can customize this however needed, and hit save. This company is now saved to this record and it's now available in the database. So now we will move on to address. Obviously, there are no locations associated with this company, and this drop-down automatically filters down to the locations that are assigned to the company that's selected here. So we'll go to hit add location. We'll say main office. Save. So now, as you can see, both of these have gone to the record. And if we go into this company, you can see that the location and the contact we have just already been tied there. And this just really streamlines the flow for users. It does the same thing as selector creators would with a card window that pops up and has basically a compacted list screen that they can go through and select, but the feeling is a lot different. They don't feel like they're moving around. They don't feel like they're going through a bunch of steps, and it is a lot less clicks. So now I will show you how this is actually built. So it's done with card windows and quick find. The window that pops up is actually a card window. And the way it works is, if I go into this script right here, there are essentially a bunch of parameters that get pushed in, which I'll go into in a second, but we use this custom function called get coordinates for card window. I'm not going to go into detail on how this works, but essentially it gets the top, left, and the width of the object so that the system knows how big the card window actually needs to be and where it needs to be positioned. That way it resembles a drop-down. And then you can set the height manually right here. The reason why this is done is because sometimes if your field is at the bottom of the layout, or if your field is on an iPad or a different type of screen size, you may want to adjust how big the drop-down is. You don't want it to get cut off at the bottom. So let's go into the parameters and what all they entail. So as you can see here, there are 3 parameters on this. We have set ID, with ID, and layout ID. So the set ID is the ID on the record that the user is on that they are going to set. So we are on the contact record right now, and we're going to set the company ID. Now, with ID is the name of the field that we are pulling what we are setting from. So we are looking to set a foreign key for company in the contact. So we're going to grab that from the primary key of a company record. And then this layout ID is the layout of the quick pick layout that we're using for this card window. So in this case, 192 represents the company quick pick. So if we were to look into location, we can see that we're setting the contact ID, the contact's location ID with the location primary ID. And the 194 is different from the layout ID on the previous because we're not using the company selector anymore, we're using the location. Now these fields, what these do, the filter fields allow you to filter down the records that you're searching in automatically. So the user will have the ability to perform a quick find and look through all the records and what they type. However, you may want to cut down on the list of records that they actually see. The reason for this would be if you're selecting a location on a contact, you're not going to want to select a location from a random company. You're going to want to make sure that location is tied to the company that that contact is tied to. So we pass the location ID, the company ID of the contact into that script, as well as the actual name of the field that we will be searching on into the script as well. So the script will know that it's going to pull, that we're going to give it the company ID of this contact, and it's going to constrain a found set by doing a find on the company ID of the location. And then you can also use these creator field and creator value parameters so that when you go and create a location, it automatically grabs any value and sticks it in a field. So in this case, if a user goes and creates a location, we want to make sure that location is tied to that. We want to make sure that location is tied to that company. So we will pass it the company ID that's stored on the contact and make sure to tell it that we're going to set the company ID of the location record we're creating. So let's go ahead and take a look at the layouts themselves. So if we go and look at the location, so this is the location quick pick. It's very simple. It's just a basic list screen. So this, on each field there's a button, on each record there's a button, and all that does is it essentially grabs the ID and sets it and then closes the window. So when the initial quick pick window is opened, a global JSON variable called picker.json is initialized and all the parameters are set in it. That way we can reference this at any point in time and we don't have to use pause scripts, etc. So in this case, we grab the set ID and the with ID, which we discussed earlier. And then we go ahead and once the window is closed, we know that we can just set field by name. So this just simplifies the entire process, makes it very easy. We can just grab the ID that we're on, set the ID of the parent record, and we're good to go. If we take a look at the scripts that are on the layouts themselves, there's an on trigger keystroke. And so what this does is it just detects if the user is moving up or down with the arrows or if they hit escape. If they hit escape, it closes the window. If they move up or down, it navigates through the records, basic stuff like that. And then the add location, all that does is it shifts the layout to the quick add right here. And save, obviously, is going to end up creating a record using the globals that we have here, grabbing the ID, and setting the ID. So let's take a quick look at how the window is actually opened. So if we go into scripts right here, So this is the script that triggers when an object is entered for the first time. That has quick pick. So we grab the set ID, we grab the width ID, layout ID. This is all done after the global JSON is set directly from the parameter. Grabs all of this information, and then we'll just create the new window with the correct height, width, top, and left that we've gotten using this custom function up there. Then it proceeds to come in here, figures out what the filters are, and automatically filters down the list of records that you can see. So for every set of filters that you pass in, it will just create a new find request. That way you can filter down to any set that you'd like. Now let's take a look at the search itself. So the search is very similar to that. First, it performs a quick find. So you can actually put in any fields that you'd like off layout for the users to search. For the most part, I would recommend only putting fields that they can see. So if we go back to this layout here, the user can see the name and then also the address. I would not recommend putting more than those two because the user isn't really going to know that they're searching that for the most part. If you've communicated with your customer and they understand that they want to maybe search by type or something like that, then that's obviously always okay, but I would try to fit it in the screen if possible. It's tough for people to search by a field that they don't actually see. So it performs the quick find, and once the quick find's done, it again references the global JSON variable, grabs any filter fields, and constrains the found set as needed. So that's pretty much a quick tutorial on how this works. As far as how long it takes to implement, it really depends on how skilled you are with layouts. You can port the scripts, obviously. You can port the custom function. It is all completely modular, so as long as you're passing in the correct parameters, it can work anywhere. The only thing that really takes time is recreating the layouts. So you do want to be mindful of the default width of these layouts. So when you're creating a quick pick, when you have quick pick in your system, you want to make sure that the field itself that it's being selected from is long enough, because if it's too short, the window won't look natural. It'll get smashed together. A lot of the records won't display well. So you do want to make sure. I believe that 260 is the recommended width for the fields, or 230 would probably be the lowest you'd want to go, because stretching outward is easy, but compacting more than that is pretty tough. The biggest, or I would say really the only downside to using Quick Pick is that since it is a card window that pops up, users cannot click out of it like a normal drop-down. They can just hit escape, and the feature is smart enough to know to get out of it, but a natural user reaction to getting out of a drop-down is clicking out of it, and it doesn't work. And until FileMaker releases the ability to exit card windows by clicking out of them, there isn't much you can do. We've explored different ways of getting around this, and none of them are very effective. The only real solution was to essentially have a layout so you would have this location layout on the Quick Pick window, and essentially it would just be there. So you would actually be looking behind. This would not be the location data entry screen. It would be the same layout as here, and it would just be one massive button that if you clicked would close it. The problem with that is, one, you have to make a layout for every single screen that you use Quick Pick on. And the second would be is every time you go and change this location data entry screen, you'll have to go and change the Quick Pick itself. And in the end, it's really not worth it. The amount of time you'll have to spend doing that compared to the value that letting users click out of it instead of hitting escape or hitting the X doesn't equal out. So again, this FM Quickstart is available on our website, dbservices.com, under the articles.